The life and sad ending of Joan Rivers. Joan Alexandra Malinsky, known professionally as Joan Rivers, was born on June 8, 1933 in Brooklyn, New York, to Russian Jewish immigrants Beatrice and Meyer C. Malinsky. She had an elder sister named Barbara Waxler. Rivers spent her early life in Prospect Heights and Crown Heights in Brooklyn, where she attended the progressive and now defunct Brooklyn Ethical Culture School and Adelphi Academy of Brooklyn, a college preparatory day school where she was co-chairman of her school due to her past experiences in theatrical activities. Within 2 years, she performed in the school cavalcades, and in 1949, age 16, she was the vice president of the dramatic club. She graduated from the Adelphi Academy of Brooklyn in 1951 at 18. In her adolescence, Rivers relocated with her family to Larchmont, north of New York City. Rivers was overweight throughout her childhood and adolescence, and that it had a profound impact on her body image, which she would struggle with throughout her life. She attended Connecticut College for 2 years before transferring to Barnard College, where she graduated in 1954 with a BA in English Literature and Anthropology. Before entering show business, Rivers worked at various jobs, such as a tour guide at Rockefeller Center, a writer, proofreader at an advertising agency, and a fashion consultant at Bond clothing stores. During this period, agent Tony Rivers advised her to change her name, so she chose Joan Rivers as her stage name. During the late 1950s, Rivers appeared in a short off-Broadway run play, Driftwood, co-starring Barbra Streisand. It ran for 6 weeks on playwright Maurice Tay Dunn's apartment on 49th Street in New York City, according to an interview in Adweek. Rivers performed in numerous comedy clubs in the Greenwich Village area of New York City in the early 1960s, including The Bitter End, the Gaslight Cafe, and the Duplex. Rivers became friends with her fellow Greenwich Village comedians Woody Allen and George Carlin, and often ate with them. She also describes working in the Village alongside noted musicians as Bob Dylan, Barbra Streisand, Carly Simon, and Simon and Garfunkel. Between 1963 and 1964, Rivers, along with Jim Connell and Jake Holmes, was in the cabaret act Jim, Jake, and Joan. A 1964 appearance at the Bitter End resulted in their appearance in the motion picture Once Upon a Coffee House, which was also Rivers' first big screen credit. She also made an appearance as a guest on the television program The Tonight Show, originating from New York, hosted at the time by Jack Paar. By 1965, Rivers had a stint on Candid Camera as a gag writer and participant. She was the bait to lure people into ridiculous situations for the show. After 7 auditions during a period of 3 years, she made her first appearance on The Tonight Show with new host Johnny Carson on February 17, 1965. Rivers credited this episode to be her breakthrough, as Carson said to her on air, "You're gonna be a star." Following this appearance, she became a frequent guest on the program and a close friend of Carson. As her profile rose significantly in the subsequent years, she started to make guest appearances in numerous popular shows, including The Ed Sullivan Show, The Mike Douglas Show, The Dick Cavett Show, and Girl Talk with Virginia Graham. She had a brief role in the cult drama film The Swimmer, 1968, with Burt Lancaster, and at the time, she also had a short-lived syndicated daytime talk show, That Show with Joan Rivers, which premiered on September 16, 1968. Each episode had a theme, and Rivers did an opening monologue based on the day's topic, followed by celebrity interviews. The show also featured an expert on the subject and a celebrity guest. Johnny Carson was her first guest. In the middle of the 1960s, she released at least 2 comedy albums, The Next to Last Joan Rivers album and Rivers Presents Mrs. Phyllis and Other Funny Stories. By the 1970s, Rivers continued to be a prominent fixture on television. Along with her other guest spots on the late-night circuit, she also made appearances on The Carol Burnett Show, had a semi-regular stint on Hollywood Squares, and guest starred in Here's Lucy. Rivers made her Broadway debut in the play Fun City, which opened on January 2, 1972, and co-starred Gabriel Dell, Rose Marie, and Paul Ford. In 1973, Rivers co-wrote the made-for-television movie The Girl Most Likely To, a black comedy starring Stockard Channing as an ugly girl who becomes beautiful after undergoing plastic surgery and takes revenge on people who previously mistreated her. The film, based on Rivers' story, became a ratings success and has been considered a cult classic. During the early and mid-1980s, Rivers found further success on stand-up and television, though the decade subsequently proved to be controversial for her. The year 1983, in particular, was very successful. She performed at Carnegie Hall in February, did the March stand-up special, An Audience with Joan Rivers, hosted the April 9th episode of Saturday Night Live, and released the best-selling comedy album What Becomes a Semi-Legend Most, which reached number 22 on the U.S. Billboard 200 and was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Comedy Album. During the 1980s and 1990s, Rivers served on the advisory board of the National Student Film Institute. In 1986, the Fox television network was giving her a late-night talk show, The Late Show starring Joan Rivers, making Rivers the first woman to have her own late-night talk show on a major network. During the airing of her late-night show, she made the voiceover role of Dot Matrix in the science fiction comedy Spaceballs, 1987, a parody mainly on Star Wars. The film, directed and co-starring Mel Brooks, was a critical and commercial success, later becoming a cult classic. On September 5, 1989, The Joan Rivers Show, her daytime television program, premiered in broadcast syndication. The show, which ran for 5 seasons, was a success and earned Rivers the Daytime Emmy in 1990 for Outstanding Talk Show Host. In addition to winning the Emmy for The Joan Rivers Show, Rivers starred in the made-for-television comedy How to Murder a Millionaire, which premiered in May 1990 on CBS. Also in 1990, she started to design jewelry, clothing, and beauty products for the shopping channel QVC. The sales of Rivers Productions exceeded $1 billion by 2014, making her one of the network's top sellers. Until 1993, she received 5 additional Emmy nominations for her daytime talk show, The Joan Rivers Show, 2 for Outstanding Writing, Special Class, and 3 for Outstanding Talk Show Host. Beginning in 1997, Rivers hosted her own radio show on WOR in New York City and wrote 3 self-help books. Rivers was a guest speaker at the opening of the American Operating Room Nurses San Francisco Conference in 2000, and by the first part of the decade, she continued to host the awards red carpet for the E! Channel. Between 2002 and 2004, she embarked on a tour with her one-person comedy show, Joan Rivers, Broken Alone. Beginning on September 10, 2010, Rivers co-hosted the E! Show Fashion Police, along with Juliana Rancic, Kelly Osbourne, and George Katsoupalis, commenting on celebrity fashion. On March 5, 2013, she launched the online talk show In Bed with Joan on YouTube. With her personal life, Rivers' first marriage in 1955 to James Sanger, the son of a Bond clothing store's merchandise manager. The marriage lasted 6 months and was annulled on the basis that Sanger did not want children and had not informed Rivers before the wedding. Rivers married Edgar Rosenberg on July 15, 1965. Their only child, Melissa Rivers, was born on January 20, 1968. Rivers was married to Rosenberg until his suicide in 1987, 4 days after she asked him for a separation. Rivers was open about her multiple cosmetic surgeries and had been a patient of plastic surgeon Steve Hofflin since 1983. She had her nose thinned while still at college. Her next procedure, an eye lift, was performed in 1965 as an attempt to further her career. On August 28, 2014, Rivers experienced serious complications and stopped breathing while undergoing what was scheduled to be a minor throat procedure at an outpatient clinic in Yorkville, Manhattan. Resuscitated an hour later, Rivers was transferred to Mount Sinai Hospital in New York and later put on life support. Sadly, she died on September 4th at Mount Sinai at the age of 81. She died from brain damage, which was caused by a lack of oxygen. On September 7th, Rivers' body was cremated at Garden State Crematory in North Bergen, New Jersey.